So just like when we were studying Hinduism, and Yogananda was sent by his guru to the United States to bring the message of liberation and enlightenment to the West, the Sufis had kind of a similar thing. And when Hazrat Inayat Khan was a young man, um, he was a sitar player, which is, I believe it's a 12 string, kind of like a guitar, but with 12 strings. And one day he had this like epiphany or realization as he was playing this instrument. He realized that he was a blasphemer. Hopefully this won't affect you too much, Ryan. But what he realized was there was only one musician in the universe, and that was God. And everything else was an instrument of God. And so he stopped playing because he felt like it was being presumptuous on his part to act like he too was a musician. He just wanted to be an instrument that was being played on by Allah. And I was just like, holy cow. And I don't know if you ever heard the parable of the flute. I've heard it in both Islamic and Christian context, and it's quite a beautiful teaching. For in order to make a flute, you have to go and cut a reed. And the reed is all full of itself inside. So the first thing the flute master has to do is to cut or kill, remove the reed from its source. And then after it is dried out, he painstakingly carves out and removes all the inside of the reed from itself. And as we're going through that process with God in our lives, nobody likes it. No one wants to be cut off from what they thought was their source of life and nourishment. No one wants to be dried out and left barren. No one wants to be bored out to the core of their being and have holes carved in their frame. But it is this very process of emptying of self that allows the sweet breath of God and music of God to pass through us, and where the song of God can be played. I just love that imagery so much. And so Hazrat Khan came to the United States and began to teach Sufism. And his was a much more sober, in the sense that he's not putting ice picks through his cheeks or walking across beds of nails or crawling on cut glass or all that kind of nonsense. He just wanted to be in this love fest with God. And the first Sufi I ever was aware of was a guy named Sufi Sam, who came to California and was like this like hippie guy in the 60s. And he started like a commune where they would do Sufi dances and they would talk about God and they would live in community. And it reminded me so much of this book I found. This is by Ian Dallas, and I know I got it mirrored, so you're not seeing it correctly, but it's called The Book of Strangers. It's not very big, but this book changed my whole view of Islam forever. Because up until this point, I only knew about like Sunni Islam, all the legalism, all this, but this is a book about the Sufis. And it's kind of set in the future. It's more in a novel form, but it really gave me a different understanding. And quite frankly, this is probably the hardest group as a Christian apologist for me to deal with, because they got all the right things, at least from my perspective and worldview. They understand it's not about the law. It's not about rules. It's about relationship. They're madly in love with God. They want to please God. They want their whole lives to be an instrument of the divine. And many of these Sufis, when you listen to them talk, in fact, it's part of why I enjoy Islamic poetry so much, because it's so easy for me to apply it to my own relationship with God. And I don't have my Hafiz book here. I'm really bummed. I must have left it in my office. But Hafiz is actually a title. It's not a personal name. I'd have to look up what his actual name is, but he goes by Hafiz. And Hafiz is a title given to someone who has memorized the Quran. So that would be equivalent to like you memorizing the New Testament. And if you can imagine, so this guy has memorized the Quran, but then his books, they're just like love poems to God. And let me see if I can remember a couple of his poems off the top of my head. My favorite, I think, Hafiz poem, he says, God and I have become like two old fat people in a tiny boat. We can't stop bumping into each other, and neither of us can stop laughing. I just love his imagery, and just this whole idea of the world is God made manifest. Not that the world is God, they're very clear about that, but that God is permeating and can be approached. Now, how this is different from Christianity, of course, is the Sufis feel no need for a savior. There's no need for atonement. This is all having to do with the love and grace of Allah or God. And so they still revere Muhammad. They still revere the Quran, but they're also saying, you know what, that whole Sharia law thing, that's really for beginners. But once you have excelled on the spiritual path, you can use the law almost like a ladder. But once you get to a certain point, you've got to kick the ladder away and keep on climbing, because the law can only take you so far. And so a lot of religious people, they think they have salvation in the law, even Christians, right? They think if they just keep the rules, keep the commandments, don't do the prohibitions, they'll be okay. But for the Sufis, and for my understanding of Christianity at least, that is not what it's about. It's about relationship. Any comments or questions? We have 1 minute. I did tell you I would critique Judaism and Islam, so I know it's going to eat into Christianity, but I'll start us off next week with that. Once again, you only got to do 400 points, and 100 will be taken care of in your discussion boards. Make sure you do the one for this week and next week, and that will give us 10 total. What else did I give you? Oh, the signature assignment.
Yeah.
I want everyone to do that one. That's another 100 points. And so you'll need to come up with 200 more points, miscellaneous. And I can't remember if the guidelines are under files or under lessons. So check both places. All righty. Have a good weekend, y'all. Ryan, do we still need to register you? Will you be, I don't think I can do it in between classes because I only got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. When can we do that? Would you be available around 2?
I can be. Yeah.
Okay, because I got my ethics class coming up, but once I'm done with that, I'll send you a link to your. Actually, I'm going to come back into this class and set up a Zoom in here, and I can just.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Cool.
So
sounds good. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it.
If I finish earlier, I might do it earlier, but we'll see.
Send me an email or something.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Any other questions before I leave? Okay.